You are living within an invisible architecture, touching bars your fingers can't feel, and answering to a master you've never seen in the mirror. As your eyes scan these words, you devoutly believe that your choices are the fruit of sacred free will and that the world has a moral obligation to your honesty. But I invite you to look at the cracks in this illusion. Who is really winning the game while you strive to be the most transparent, predictable, and tirelessly kind person in the room? Look at the hierarchies that surround you. In your career, in your social circle, in your affections. Life's prizes don't usually rest in the lap of those who give everything they have without asking for anything in return. They belong to those who understand that reality is not driven by ideals of justice, but by a cold mechanism of power, desire, and self-interest. 5 centuries ago, a man named Niccolò Machiavelli had the audacity to tear away the veil of political hypocrisy, to describe not how the world should be in our purest dreams, but exactly how it operates in the clay of human existence. He understood that human nature is fickle, ungrateful, and deceitful. If you ignore these forces, you are merely fuel for someone else's engine. If you understand them, you become the architect of your own sovereignty. Most people go through life as player 2 in their own story. They react, they defend themselves, they ask permission to exist. They are governed by subterranean psychological laws that determine who receives respect and who is left behind. Here, we are not talking about superficial tips, but about an operating system of human hierarchy that is running in the background right now. Imagine that your life is a chessboard where the pieces move on their own, because you haven't yet realized that you are the one who should be holding the controls. What Machiavelli called virtù was not the goodness of saints, but the strategic ability of a ruler to read the moment and act with surgical precision, adapting to the changes of fortune like a sailor adjusting the sails before the storm engulfs him. Have you been a sailor, or just a piece of wood adrift hoping the tide will be kind to you? The uncomfortable truth is that morality is often used as a leash to keep the ambitious in check, while those who truly hold power use it only as a stage prop. At the end of this journey, you will have a choice. Continue being a pawn moved by invisible hands, or cut the strings and finally see the board from above. But I leave a lucid warning. Once you understand the anatomy of power and the mechanisms of influence, innocence disappears. And innocence, once lost, is a land that can never be revisited. Do you prefer the safety of a comfortable lie or the dangerous freedom of a brutal truth? The game has always been happening, whether you believe in it or not. Gravity pulls you down even if you deny physics. The laws of power shape you even if you consider them immoral. The question has never been whether you want to participate, but whether you accept continuing to lose by ignoring the rules. We are now beginning to dismantle the first of these laws, the foundation of all human value, the one you probably violate every morning before even leaving home. Your value does not arise from your constant presence, but from the shadow your absence casts. If you are omnipresent, you are irrelevant. If you are always available, you are merely part of the furniture. He who neglects what should be done for what must be done learns his ruin rather than his preservation. If you spend your energy trying to be what etiquette manuals say is correct, you are only becoming an easier victim for the system to chew up. Machiavelli's political realism is not an invitation to villainy, but a survival manual for those who are tired of being a stepping stone to someone else's ladder. Feel the weight of this revelation. People don't respect you for how much you give them, but for how much they fear losing what you offer. Are you willing to be the author of your own story, or will you wait for fortune to decide your end for you? The board is set, the lights are on, and Machiavelli's political conscience now observes each of your moves over your shoulder, waiting to see if you will have the necessary virtù for the next step. The economy of presence is the foundation of all human value, and paradoxically, it is the law you violate most often, frequently believing that generosity is the shortest path to admiration. Imagine yourself in a room where the light never goes out. Over time, you stop noticing the brightness and only feel the discomfort of the heat. Machiavelli, observing palaces and streets, understood that respect is not a byproduct of kindness, but a direct consequence of scarcity. You have been conditioned to believe that, to be valued, you need to be available, to be the one who answers messages the second the phone vibrates, the employee who accepts the extra shift without hesitation, or the friend who absorbs all of someone else's drama the moment they are asked. You believe this makes you essential, reliable, and good. However, in the eyes of power, this only makes you cheap. Human psychology obeys the same laws that govern the market. What flows in abundance loses its price. Water is the most vital element for existence, yet it is despised and wasted because it gushes from every tap with a simple wave of the hand. Diamonds, on the other hand, are intrinsically useless. They neither quench thirst nor nourish the body, yet they are adored, pursued, and protected by armies simply because they are rare and difficult to obtain. When you become omnipresent in someone's life, you become the water. You are necessary, perhaps, but you will never be respected. You will be consumed until the reservoir dries up. And the cruelest part of this dynamic is that when you finally decide to stop gushing, people don't feel gratitude for what they received in the past. They feel deep anger because the free service has been interrupted. Machiavelli understood that a prince who makes himself seen too often becomes ordinary in the eyes of the people, losing that aura of authority that maintains order. Think about your own affections and obsessions. For whom does your heart race? Is it that person who sends you paragraphs of immediate validation and is always just a click away, or is it the one whose silence makes you question your own worth, whose yes feels like an achievement, and whose time seems like a contested resource? The human brain is programmed to chase what recedes. If you drop a string in front of a cat, it loses interest. If you pull the string away, it jumps. To master this law, you need to learn the discipline of strategic absence. This isn't about childish games of manipulation, but about understanding the weight of your own existence in the world. Stop distributing yourself like free flyers on a busy street corner and start rationing your presence as if it were gold. This means not explaining every step, not attending every invitation, and not responding to every plea. By withdrawing, you create a vacuum. And nature, as Machiavelli well knew, abhors a vacuum. People will rush to fill that space with their attention, curiosity, and desire. While you are silent, they are forced to imagine what you are thinking. While you're away, they fantasize about where you are. And this mental projection they create is infinitely more powerful and intimidating than the reality of you sitting on the couch, ready to be used. Start by withdrawing 20% of your availability today, and observe how the tilt of the room changes when you enter. Notice how text messages shift from casual to urgent. You're not being cruel. You're teaching the world the value of what you offer by showing the real possibility of loss. A ruler who cannot be lost is a ruler who does not need to be obeyed. Your virtue lies in the ability to become a mystery in a world that demands total transparency. Transparency is the trap of the weak, for it allows the enemy to calculate every inch of your territory. By keeping the fog around your intentions and your location, you force others to tread cautiously around you. Remember that the majesty of a king does not reside in the crown, but in the insurmountable distance between him and his subject. If you shorten that distance out of neediness or a childish desire to be loved, you destroy your own throne. Love is volatile like the wind, but the respect born from uncertainty is solid as marble. True power doesn't clamor for attention. It draws it to the center of a calculated silence. Are you ready to disappear and test who would truly come after you? Or is your fear of loneliness greater than your desire to be sovereign? Absence is the ultimate test of loyalty. But be careful. Being scarce is only the beginning of the foundation. If you are rare but unnecessary, you will be just a forgotten curiosity on a museum shelf. The secret to why your absence hurts is not just the mystery, but the fact that, without you, the other person's structure begins to falter. The third law leads us to the icy heart of Machiavelli's strategy, the transformation of affection into a vital necessity. If the previous law taught the value of its absence, this one teaches how to ensure that this absence is unbearable. Most people make the fatal mistake of trying to be loved, believing that gratitude is a safe currency. They heal wounds, solve problems, and offer friendly shoulders, hoping that kindness will generate eternal loyalty. However, Machiavelli observes with his lucidity that, once the danger passes and the wound heals, the savior is quickly discarded like a used bandage. Why? Because human beings have a short memory for gratitude, but an eternal memory for survival. If you are merely the hero who solves a temporary problem, your relevance expires with the solution of that problem. To be truly untouchable, you must cease to be a remedy and become the immune system. The secret is not to build bridges based on sympathy, but rather on foundations of dependence. A wise ruler, Machiavelli said, must find ways in which his subjects, in all circumstances of time and state, need his government. In the contemporary world, this means that you must position yourself in such a way that your removal causes immediate structural pain. In the professional field, this doesn't just mean doing your job well. It means possessing a specific key, an exclusive relationship, or technical knowledge that no one else has. If the gears can turn without you, you are merely an accessory. If the gears seize and the engine overheats in your absence, you are the oil itself. Love is a volatile feeling that changes with mood and time. Need, however, is a primal instinct that knows no negotiation. Have you ever stopped to analyze who truly holds the power over your life right now? Is it the person you admire most, or the one you can't detach yourself from without your world collapsing financially or emotionally? Absolute freedom is a myth that the powerful sell, so that the weak don't realize they are being led. In personal relationships, this dynamic is even more subtle and devastating. It's not about blatant financial dependence, but about a psychological architecture of support. You must become the only person capable of calming a specific anxiety in the other, the only source of clarity they cannot find in the chaos of the world, or the only confidant of a dark ambition they dare not confess to anyone else. When you hold the secret or the comfort that maintains someone's sanity, you don't need to beg for respect. It is given to you as an involuntary tribute. Men forget the face of the one who kissed them faster than the hands of the one who prevented them from falling into the abyss. Kindness makes you disposable, but indispensability makes you a lesser god in the lives of those around you. Machiavelli teaches us that it is better to be the pillar that supports the roof than the carpet that adorns the floor. The carpet is stepped on and replaced when it fades. The pillar is guarded with fear, for if it crumbles, everything above it falls. Observe the great corporations and the great empires. They do not survive because they are loved, but because they are the sole providers of something the world cannot produce on its own. If you want to be sovereign in your reality, stop trying to convince people that you are a good person. Good people are abundant and therefore cheap. Prove, through your actions and your strategic intelligence, that you are the oxygen in the room. Loyalty bought by love ends at the first disagreement. Loyalty guaranteed by necessity persists even through hatred. To what extent have you allowed others to become independent of you? Are you making their lives so easy that you prepare them to live without you? Or are you weaving such a complex web that they feel lost trying to walk alone? Dependence is the strategist's life insurance. If you withdraw, and the silence you leave behind is filled only with peace, you have failed in the art of governing. But if your departure leaves a trail of confusion, instability, and emptiness, then you have reached the top of the human hierarchy. You must be the solution to problems people didn't even know they had before meeting you. It's a form of calculated benevolence. You offer what is vital, but maintain control over the source. A person will leave someone they love for someone they need, but will rarely abandon someone they need for someone they simply love. On the chessboard of existence, love is an opening move, but need is checkmate. But beware, if everyone knows how you build this network, the magic breaks. Power requires a veil. Do you have the courage to be hated, as long as it's essential? Or will your vanity of being liked continue to dig the grave of your own relevance? If the secret of strength lies in dependence, the secret of survival lies in what no one can see. Because the moment you reveal your strategy, You cease to be the master of the game and become the target. How do you intend to keep your next move secret when the world demands that you shout your plans from the rooftops? The answer lies not in the light, but in the fog that precedes the attack. The fourth secret of Machiavellian sovereignty transports us to the realm of shadows, where truth is too precious a commodity to be spent on just anyone. You were raised under the dogma that honesty is the best policy, and that transparency is the hallmark of a noble character. However, Machiavelli, observing the downfall of princes who opened their hearts to treacherous advisors, teaches that the world does not reward sincerity. It uses it as a map to invade your territory. The fourth law is the fog of war, the art of never letting the world know what you are thinking, who you are loving, or what your next move will be until the blow has already been struck. Predictability is the death sentence of any leader. If people know what you want, they know exactly how to manipulate you, how to distract you, and, above all, how to sabotage you before you even begin to walk. Imagine that every time you announce a grand plan, be it starting a business, a life change, or a new project, you are, in effect, handing a loaded weapon to everyone around you. Modern psychology reveals a fascinating and frightening phenomenon. The human brain releases dopamine the moment you talk about a goal and receive social validation for it. When your friends say, "What an amazing idea," you feel the pleasure of success without having lifted a single finger to achieve it. The result? Your hunger diminishes, your urgency disappears, and you end up satisfied with just the talk, while the action dies in its infancy. Furthermore, by declaring your ambition, you accidentally hold up a mirror to the mediocrity of others. Those who are stagnant will not applaud your rise. They will try, consciously or unconsciously, to plant the seed of doubt, whispering about the risks and uncertainties until you give up out of fear. Have you ever noticed how the most valuable information from a government or a large company is protected by layers of secrecy, while the masses are fed transparent entertainment? What do you gain by being an open book, besides becoming an easy target for those who know how to read your weaknesses? Machiavelli advised that a ruler should never let his court know which side he was on in a dispute until the winner was decided by his own hands. In your daily life, fog should be your constant atmosphere. When you are furious, wear the mask of absolute calm. When you are desperate, exude an aura of abundance. He who does not reveal his position in a meeting forces others to project their own fears and insecurities onto him. They will try to impress you, try to guess your game, and in the process, reveal everything about themselves while you remain an impenetrable enigma. There is a terrifying power in the person who does not speak, for silence is a blank canvas on which others paint their own destruction. Consider the case of strategists who use distractions to conceal their true targets. If you want to seize a position of power, pretend to be interested only in stability. If you want to seize an opportunity, pretend your attention is focused on friendship or technical learning. By the time your adversaries realize your true intentions, it will be too late for any reaction. History is full of figures who seemed harmless and uninterested until the very moment they captured the crown. The fog is not a lie. It is strategic management of perception. By keeping people in a state of uncertainty, you keep them in a state of submission, because they will never know if your next move will be an embrace or an amputation. What would happen if, starting tomorrow, you stopped posting about your routine, your desires, and your frustrations on social media? How much power would you regain by forcing the world to wonder who you really are behind your silence? Total transparency is the mark of the slave, for the master does not need to account for his thoughts to anyone. By embracing the fog, you withdraw from the market of cheap opinions and become a luxury asset. Let your actions be the only announcement you make. Don't be the dog that barks at the intruder, warning him to flee or prepare. Be the viper that remains motionless in the tall grass, imperceptible and lethal, attacking only when the distance between its target and its strike has been completely reduced. Those who talk a lot rarely do much, for the energy needed for execution is spent on narrative. The true master of the game knows that information is the scarcest resource in the universe, and therefore must be kept in deep vaults. On the chessboard of existence, whoever reveals the map loses the war. But the fog isn't just for hiding plans. It serves to alter the emotional balance of every interaction you have. When you're unpredictable, you become dangerous. And when you're dangerous, the world stops trying to use you and starts trying to please you. But be warned, hiding your game is only part of the defense. The real attack happens when you understand that control over the other person doesn't come from physical strength, but from the asymmetry of affection. Are you prepared to discover why the person who cares the least is always the one who holds the remote control in the relationship? How will you react when you realize that your overzealousness is what gave others permission to ignore you? The fog is lifting, and behind it, the laws of emotion are about to be brutally revealed. Machiavelli's fifth law leads us to the most intimate and dangerous territory of existence, the management of affection and the management of pain. Here, political awareness teaches us that control in any relationship, be it romantic, professional, or familial, rests on asymmetry. You have probably felt the weight of being the one who invests the most, the one who worries the most, and the one who analyzes every word of a conversation the most. This intensity, although it seems like proof of love or dedication, is actually your greatest vulnerability. In the game of human interactions, the person who cares the least is always the one in command. This is because excessive interest generates a dependence that exudes an odor of need. And human beings, by instinct, tend to despise what they have already fully conquered. Machiavelli observed that men are driven by the covetousness of what they do not possess. The moment you give yourself entirely and demonstrate that you will never leave, you cease to be a conquest and become a guaranteed possession. To regain sovereignty, you must cultivate the capacity for emotional detachment. This doesn't mean becoming a robot without feelings, but rather finding a center of gravity within yourself that doesn't oscillate according to the moods of others. When the other person withdraws, you don't chase after them. You remain still. When the other person cools off, you don't try to warm the relationship with pleas. You let the ice burn away the one who produced it. This posture creates an immediate power reversal. Imagine a scale where, until now, you were jumping onto the empty plate to try to balance the other person's weight. By stopping jumping and stepping back, you force the other person to confront their own emptiness. It is in this silence that anxiety shifts sides. Suddenly, it is the other person who begins to wonder why you didn't call, why you didn't react, and whether they still matter to you. The mystery that Machiavelli so strongly defended becomes your armor again. But this law of emotional asymmetry must be accompanied by an even more drastic tool when conflict becomes inevitable: the surgeon's blow. Most people, through a misinterpreted kindness, prolong the suffering of situations that are already dead. They hesitate to end toxic relationships, to fire incompetent employees, or to cut ties with friends who sabotage them. They believe they are being kind by softening the blow. But Machiavelli teaches that this is, in fact, a form of torture. If you cut a dog's tail an inch a day, you're not being merciful. You're just ensuring the pain lasts longer. The Machiavellian strategy demands that the necessary injuries and cuts be made all at once. The pain must be sharp, deep, and final. When you amputate a gangrenous limb with a single blow, the shock is immense, but healing can begin the next second. By leaving doors ajar out of guilt, you allow the cold of uncertainty to continue sickening your life. If you need to punish or distance yourself, do it so decisively that there is no room for revenge or false hopes. People respect the executor who is clean and precise. They despise the executioner who hesitates and misses the blow, prolonging the agony. It is better to be feared for drastic action than to be disrespected for eternal indecision. Do you have the courage to be the villain in someone's story, so that you can be the hero of your own survival? Or will you continue to bleed slowly to maintain the appearance of a kindness that no one reciprocates? The unexpected twist here is that this supposed cruelty is the only true form of compassion. By being clear and brutal in your decision, you restore to the other the dignity of moving forward. Where is the rot in your life that you still try to treat with massages instead of surgery? Hesitation is the fuel of disaster. On the chessboard of power, whoever doesn't know when to use the blade ends up being cut by it. While you get lost in moral doubts, fortune is spinning its wheel and time is slipping through your fingers. Which leads us to the ultimate need to understand not only how to act, but when to act and how to be seen. The perception of the world is the court where your sentence is decided before you even open your mouth. Are you ready to understand how your image is being used as a weapon against you, and how to transform it into the spectacle that will bend the will of everyone around you? The conclusion approaches, and in it time and appearance merge to create the absolute master of the game. The silence is about to end, but the impact of what comes next will be permanent. Machiavelli's sixth and final law is the keystone that holds the entire power structure together. Mastery of perception and the relentless control of time. You were raised hearing the modest lie that you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but the political reality is that the cover is the only thing most people will ever see. We live in a culture of surfaces where competence is judged by trust, authority by posture, and worth by visibility. If you are hiding your talent and virtue under a cloak of humility, hoping the world will discover you through spontaneous merit, you will die in anonymity. The world doesn't reward the best man. The world rewards the man who best knows how to make himself noticed. Machiavelli knew that a prince must be, above all, a master of spectacle, someone who understands that power is a performative art, and that public perception is the reality that governs the state. Controlling your image doesn't mean lying, but rather curating the truth so that it serves your purposes. Every time you leave your house, you step onto a stage. The way you walk, the speed of your speech, and how you occupy physical space are messages sent directly to the subconscious of those who observe you. If you walk with your head down, avoiding the gaze of others, you are shouting to the world that you are easy prey. Powerful people do not rush. They move as if time belongs to them. When you speak, every word must be calculated. Avoid asking permission to exist or apologizing for having an opinion. The difference between "Excuse me, may I ask a question?" and "I have a question" is the abyss that separates the subject from the sovereign. While you master the stage, you must also master the clock. Haste is the vice of amateurs. It reveals a lack of control over circumstances and one's own emotions. Machiavelli spoke of fortune as a violent river that cannot be stopped, but can be channeled by those who have the patience to build dams at the right moment. Patience is not a passive virtue, but a weapon of predatory waiting. Most of your mistakes in life stem from impatience. The text sent too early out of neediness, the project abandoned just before the breakup, the aggressive response given in the heat of the moment. To be Machiavellian is to learn to sit in the tension of silence and wait for the other person to fall apart on their own. In the negotiation of life, whoever can wait the longest without blinking is the one who defines the terms of the agreement. Now look back and see the pieces we've moved so far. You've learned to create value through absence, to ensure security through dependence, to protect your plans under the fog, and to win through detachment. These laws are not an invitation to gratuitous wickedness, but a survival manual for those who are tired of being a stepping stone on someone else's ladder. The ethics of the masses were designed to create worker bees who sacrifice themselves for the hive. Machiavelli's ethics were designed to create architects. You feel this calling, don't you? The discomfort you felt upon hearing these truths is not a reaction to immorality, but the fear of the responsibility of being the sole master of your destiny. It's easier to be a sheep, because sheep don't have to make difficult decisions, only follow the flock to the slaughterhouse. To put this into practice, start small, but start today. Identify a relationship where you are giving too much of yourself and withdraw 20% of your availability. Observe the vacuum this creates. Choose a plan you intended to tell someone and keep it a complete secret until it materializes. Feel the power that silence returns to your hands. When faced with an offense, don't react. Wait 3 seconds longer than usual and see how the authority in the room shifts to you. You are building a fortress of emotional sovereignty brick by brick. The path is lonely, because the more you understand the strings that move others, the less you identify with their blind dance. But this solitude is the price of freedom. You are no longer a child waiting for the world to be fair. You are a strategist, building your own justice in a world that is fundamentally unequal. The journey through the digital cave is only beginning. What we share here is the public level, the laws that the light allows us to see. However, the abyss of the human psyche is much deeper and contains truths that the algorithm often prefers to silence. If this awakening resonated with you, if you feel you can no longer go back to being who you were before seeing the board, then your presence here is indispensable. Don't let this flame of lucidity be extinguished by the next distraction in your feed. Mark your position in this new hierarchy. Like this video to signal that you understood the message, and subscribe to the channel to ensure your mind continues to be sharpened weekly. Leave your comment below. It can be just a word, a code, or an anonymous account of how you intend to apply WarThe in your life today. We read each one because it is in the dialogue between awakened minds that true power multiplies. The board is set, and now you know how to move the pieces. Until the next move in the digital cave,